Okay, so the NRL regular season has now concluded and we are preparing for week one of this year's finals. Let's preview it. There's some surprises in here. There's some teams who, over recent years, have been very consistent in making the top eight, failed to make the top eight, and there's some new teams in the top eight. So, let's have a look at it. We'll break it down in the order the matches are going to be played this weekend. We start with the Brisbane Broncos versus the Melbourne Storm. Brisbane narrowly missing out on the minor premiership, but Melbourne did beat Brisbane towards the end of the season. Melbourne, they're a very consistent side, although this season's there were some warning signs there with the Storm, although Pappenhausen is now back into the top squad. He's had very little game time, however. On the Broncos side of things, obviously last year they fell away really badly. This is a very young squad with a lack of finals experience. There's a handful of players in this Brisbane side who have played in the latter stages of finals. It's going to be interesting. A very solid and consistent Melbourne Storm side. Is their steam starting to run out a little bit because they had some bad defeats and some bad performances this season? Brisbane, massive bounce back from last year where they fell away. They finished second overall in the regular season. It's going to be an interesting one, although Melbourne, I think, slightly edgy going head-to-head with how recent performances have gone between the two sides. Melbourne have that psychological edge, but all is not lost should you lose this game because you just play next week. The second match of the weekend is the Penrith Panthers, minor premiers, against the surprise package New Zealand Warriors. Now, the Warriors had a fantastic season. However, there are some injuries. Metcalf, for example, with that hamstring problem, that could be a concern. But again, the way they play, they don't allow themselves to get flustered. If they do fall behind in a game, they always stick around. They've scored a lot of points in attack. They are very dangerous. They've just been solid for 2/3 of the season. A little bit of a shaky start to the season, but fantastic season. Really bounced back from a really disappointing period over recent years where they failed to get to finals. Penrith, the juggernaut, continues, although they do have injuries in key positions and their depth has been tested this season, but they were still minor premiers. So it just shows you all you need to know about the Panthers. They've weathered the storm of losing players to other clubs and injuries, although their depth has started to be tested. They've had some awkward defeats this season as well. They have not won when it has rained. So if there's any rain this weekend, for example, that could be their banana skin. Wet weather play, they struggle in it. They obviously lost the World Club Challenge in the wet against St Helens, so that's going to be interesting. The weather may have an impact. We haven't discussed the weather, but when it's dry, Penrith Panthers will steamroll you. However, the Warriors, I think, are unpredictable and dangerous, although again there's that lack of experience for a lot of Warriors players in finals football. So that's your top four. Cronulla Sharks, Sydney Roosters is the third game of the weekend. The Sharks, I think they're favourites going into this game quite clearly. The Roosters, they have had struggles this season scoring points and defending their try line, and completion is shocking. Their completion rates are the lowest in the league. Obviously, they beat the Rabbitohs in that must-win game, and of course, the Cowboys couldn't beat Penrith, so they squeak in to the top eight. Literally, it was a squeaky bum time. There was periods this season where the Roosters looked like they were going to miss. They've picked up their form in the last month and a half, but that point scoring being down, defensively not being as solid, and their completion count being one of the lowest in the league are cause for concern. The Sharks, they've got one of the most lethal attacks in the league. They've got last year's Dally M winner in Nico Hines in the halves. I think Cronulla are favourites in this one. I think the Roosters, this may be a step too far, and we've seen it now for the last couple of seasons. The momentum's fallen away with the Roosters. Injuries, retirements, player movement have taken their toll. Player depth has taken its toll. There's some wear and tear on this Roosters side. And then the final game of the weekend, the Newcastle Knights, fantastic end to the season. They just went on a run. There's been a lot of question marks over the Newcastle Knights and O'Brien as head coach for several seasons now. I think they've answered them. They've made the finals. They've got to win week one, though. They have to actually win a finals match and then continue that momentum. The Raiders, the worst defence out of the top eight, one of the worst defensive sides in the league. However, the Raiders are a big game team. They can win those big games when they're unfancied. They could be dangerous, but as a Raiders fan, I'm not rating our chances. The Knights go in as favourites. They have that home field advantage. They've been playing really well at home recently, good crowd support, and Dom Young has got the try scoring title as well, with 2 fantastic, almost insane tries against the Dragons at the weekend. So, but winner takes all in the Cronulla game and the Knights game as well. If you lose, you're out. So I have some concerns about the Roosters and Raiders being able to win. Roosters, don't count them out. They've got some big game experience. Raiders, of course, they've got some big game experience as well. But both those sides really weak defensively. When the Raiders win, it has to be a low-scoring, tight game. Otherwise, it's not going to happen. They're not scoring enough. The Roosters aren't scoring enough. They're the 2 weakest defensive teams. The Knights been on a run. The Sharks, well, don't discount them. I think they could be the side that finishes outside the top 4. That could win the Premiership. The Warriors could be dangerous for the Panthers. They could upset the Panthers. The Melbourne Storm-Brisbane game, that could be close, although Melbourne Storm, I think, will slightly edge it. So there we go. There's our preview of Week 1 of the 2023 NRL Finals. We will do a video on the wooden spoon for the West Tigers as well in due course, in regards to our wooden spoon series, where we've been looking at some very disastrous seasons. The West Tigers have got some issues going forward, although there are some green shoots under Benji Marshall. So we'll do a video on the West Tigers in due course, probably at the end of the season. So there we go. Thank you very much for watching. Place your thoughts in the comment section below, and I will have some more content for you very, very soon.